In one of the most hostile environments on Earth lies a lake so strange that photographs of its victims appear to show animals transformed into stone. For years, these eerie images have fueled myths and speculation. But the real story behind Lake Natron is even more fascinating. Lake Natron stretches across the northern edge of Tanzania, pressed close to the border with Kenya. The land here is raw and wide open, a shallow basin where water gathers but never escapes, locked in by ancient volcanic ridges and sun-baked savanna. The lake itself is startling from the first glance. Its surface glows with a deep, unnatural crimson, a color that seems to defy the dry earth and pale sky around it. Along the margins, the shoreline is etched with white and orange mineral bands, as if the ground itself is stained by some chemical secret. There are no forests or lush riverbanks, only the stark outlines of acacia trees and the distant shimmer of heat. Even before any science is explained, the place feels otherworldly. The water is shallow, rarely more than 3 meters deep, yet its presence dominates the landscape, drawing the eye with a vividness that hints at something extraordinary beneath the surface. In this closed basin, nature has written its own rules, and every feature demands a closer look. Lake Natron belongs to a rare class of soda lakes, shaped by forces both ancient and ongoing. Its waters are not just salty, they are intensely alkaline, with pH often above 10, sometimes reaching levels found in household ammonia. This is no accident of geography. The lake sits in a closed basin, collecting water from streams and hot springs, but offering no outlet. As the relentless sun beats down, evaporation strips away the water, leaving behind a concentrated brew of dissolved salts and minerals. The chemistry here is dominated by sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, minerals that flow in from the surrounding volcanic highlands. Old Doinyo Lengai, the only active natrocarbonatite volcano on Earth, towers nearby. Its eruptions release lava and ash rich in sodium and potassium carbonates, which weather quickly in the tropical heat. Rain and runoff carry these compounds down into the Natron Basin, feeding the lake's mineral appetite year after year. The result is an aquatic environment that is both beautiful and hostile. The high alkalinity rapidly denatures organic material, making the water caustic to most forms of life. During the hottest months, the lake's chemistry becomes even more concentrated, pushing the limits of what can survive. This is not a place where animals are magically turned to stone. Instead, it is a natural laboratory where chemistry acts with astonishing speed, preserving the remains of the unlucky in a glittering coat of minerals. The myth of petrification is powerful, but the reality, a landscape sculpted by volcanic fire and relentless evaporation, is even more extraordinary. The world's fascination with Lake Natron began to crystallize when a series of haunting photographs appeared in galleries and magazines. These images showed birds and small mammals, their bodies coated in a pale, crystalline shell, posed as if frozen in their final moments. The effect was so striking that it seemed as though the lake had turned living creatures to stone. British photographer Nick Brandt is most closely linked to these unforgettable pictures. In 2008, while documenting wildlife along the lake's edge, Brandt discovered carcasses preserved by the lake's chemistry. Feathers and fur had been transformed by a mineral glaze, not by magic, but by nature's own hand. His photographs spread rapidly, fueling the lake's reputation as a place where the boundary between life and death appears sculpted. Yet the real mystery is not whether the lake possesses supernatural powers. But why these remains look so much like statues? An invitation to look more closely at the science behind the spectacle. Lake Natron's reputation as a lake that turns animals to stone is rooted in spectacle, but not in supernatural power. The truth is both simpler and more remarkable. Lake Natron does not petrify living creatures. Animals do not wade into its waters and freeze into statues. What happens is a rapid, natural process, one that unfolds at the boundary of chemistry and climate. When a bird or small mammal dies in or near the lake, its body is exposed to air thick with heat and water saturated with sodium carbonate. Evaporation acts quickly, drawing moisture out of flesh and feathers. Meanwhile, the highly alkaline water, loaded with dissolved minerals, coats the carcass in a thin shell of crystalline carbonate. Within hours to days, this mineral layer hardens, sealing the animal's shape beneath a chalky glaze. Feathers, beaks, even the delicate outlines of wings or paws can be preserved in this way, mummified rather than fossilized. The process does not replace bone or tissue with rock, as true petrification does over millennia. Instead, the original organic material remains inside, now shielded from decay by a brittle crust. The result is a natural sculpture, an eerie, lifelike form that seems caught between worlds. This is chemistry acting at full speed, not the slow work of geological time. The spectacle that captured the world's imagination is not a curse, but the signature of a lake where the rules of preservation are rewritten by heat, salt, and wind. In the end, reality offers something stranger than legend. A landscape where death is transformed, not by magic, but by the relentless artistry of nature itself. In the heart of this harsh landscape, life flourishes against the odds. Each year, Lake Natron becomes the nursery for nearly 2 million lesser flamingos, by far the largest breeding colony of its kind on Earth. Where the caustic waters repel most animals, flamingos find sanctuary. The secret lies in their extraordinary adaptations. Their feet and legs are shielded by tough, keratinous scales, and specialized salt glands above their eyes allow them to drink and feed in water that would burn the skin of other birds. Here, they feast on dense mats of spirulina, a cyanobacterium that thrives in the alkaline shallows and gives the flamingos their vivid pink hue. During the dry season, as water levels drop and mineral flats emerge, the flamingos gather by the thousands to build nests from mud and ash. The high pH of the lake suppresses bacteria and parasites, protecting eggs and chicks from disease. With few predators willing to brave the Central Basin's toxic waters, the colony enjoys a rare freedom from disturbance. While the edges of the lake may bear the marks of decay, the heart of Natron pulses with new life. This is not a landscape defined by death, but a living ecosystem, one where the very forces that seem most hostile create a haven for one of Africa's most spectacular wildlife gatherings. For people living around Lake Natron, the landscape is not just a spectacle, it is woven into daily life and responsibility. The Maasai call the lake Emurunga, and their stories warn of the dangers along its shimmering shore. They have long known which paths are safe and which waters are best avoided, drawing on generations of local knowledge to guide cattle and gather salt from the crusted edges. Access to the lake is carefully managed. Any scientific research, drone flights, or wildlife monitoring requires permits from Tanzanian authorities, including the Tanzania Wildlife Research Institute and the Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority. These protocols are not just paperwork, they are safeguards for a fragile environment, ensuring that every project respects both the land and the people who know it best. Conservation here is a lived practice, shaped by the rhythms of the seasons and the hands of those who call this place home. Beneath the shimmering surface of Lake Natron, the earth itself is restless. This basin is not an isolated wonder, but a living part of the East African Rift, a massive scar where tectonic plates are slowly tearing the continent apart. Here, molten rock and shifting faults have shaped the land for millions of years. The most dramatic of these forces rises just north of the lake, Ol Doinyo Lengai, the only active natrocarbonatite volcano on the planet. Each eruption from its crater sends a fresh pulse of sodium-rich and potassium-rich ash across the landscape, feeding the lake's chemistry and renewing its mineral appetite. Uplift and faulting continue to reshape the basin, altering river courses and redrawing the shoreline with every geological tremor. Lake Natron is not a static relic. It is a dynamic system. Its chemistry, its colors, even its boundaries are all sculpted by the deep processes of a planet in motion. Lake Natron does not literally turn animals into stone. Nature's chemistry only makes it seem that way. In a world so quick to believe legend, its true science is even more astonishing. The line between myth and reality blurs, reminding us that Earth's extremes still defy our deepest expectations.